What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sector for Nerds. I'm Ryan Brower, and today we are here to talk about the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 7, In the Name of Honor. But before we do that, you guys, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If this is your first time watching, welcome. I like to do a lot of reaction videos to fan-made Star Wars content, such as fan films and tribute videos, and I also like to do a lot of discussions on the latest episodes that appear on Disney Plus from both Star Wars and Marvel. We've been doing it since the start of Disney Plus being in existence, and we will continue to do so as more shows are released. So subscribe if you haven't already. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything, and it really helps to support my channel. Thanks, guys. Alright, guys, so let's talk about this episode. While I admit that there were moments that I definitely enjoyed, overall, this was not a good finale episode, in my opinion. Was it as bad as the Bad Batch season finale? No. But in hindsight, this still, after having some time to think about it, I don't think was that good of an episode. I feel like there was a lot of missing potential for it, and maybe just part of it has to do with last week's episode being an all-timer episode. It was so freaking good that I was expecting a bit more in this episode, but like, put last week's episode to the side, boom, non-factor. There were a lot of story elements in this episode that just didn't make sense to me. The first thing I questioned happened right at the beginning, when Boba and Fennec were at that destroyed bar, and the Mandalorian's there with them, and then the biker gang shows up, and Boba's like, okay, we need to go back to the palace and hold out there. And the biker gang's like, why? So you can hide? No, we're staying here. We want to stay here. And then Boba's like, okay, we'll stay here. And I'm like, wait, no, but what? Like, Boba, you're the head of this operation here. Surely you should be the one who knows the plan and everything, right? Like, if you have a strategy, man, you gotta go for it. Because, I mean, what ends up happening is like, everybody ends up betraying Boba. Like, all the people that said that they weren't gonna do anything freaking did something. You know what? I think for this episode, instead of breaking it down scene by scene, I'm gonna talk about all the things that I didn't like first, and then I'll talk about the things that I liked. Another scene I thought was really dumb is when Boba sent the Twi'lek out to negotiate. And, like, I get the whole point of what they were trying to do, because in the end it was kind of funny when he was sitting there reading Boba's terms and whatnot. But, like, you would think that, like, the Twi'lek was right there when Boba wrote it. He had it in his hands before he went outside to negotiate. So surely you would have thought he would have read it, so he would have better prepared for the things that he was going to say. The fight with Boba and Bane. Well, I did enjoy the bits of dialogue between Boba and Bane during this episode. I'm not sure if I was a big fan of the way that it went down. Like, see, it's weird because, like, I like that Boba went back to his Tusken roots and he brought back out the Banthy, the gaffy stick, excuse me, I believe is what the Sand People weapon is called. And he ends up using it to kill Bane because he can't beat him, you know, gun to gun, because Bane just outdrew him every time. But then when Boba pulled out something unexpected is when he was able to get him. But the thing that I didn't like is that Bane was sitting there going, Boba, you're nothing but a cold-blooded killer. And then Boba just ends up proving him right by killing Bane. I don't know if I appreciated that. I thought, like, Boba was gonna rule differently, you know, like Jabba ruled with fear. He was gonna rule with respect. I don't know if, like, just going up and straight out killing Bane was the right move. But then I thought to myself, okay, so Boba is clearly filled with rage in this moment. He's upset because the Pikes killed the Tusken tribe, even though they framed it on the biker gang. Or not the biker gang, it was a biker gang, but not Boba's biker gang. And so I'm half expecting Boba to go to that place where all the people are that betrayed him, like the mayor and all the other leaders, and then the Pikes as well. Like, I was half expecting that. I was mostly expecting that to be Boba, but it wasn't Boba, it was Fennec. Fennec was the one who killed them all. Like, then I got even more confused because I'm like, well, why would they have Fennec do this? Like, surely this is made for Boba to do to get his vengeance. I don't know. And speaking of Fennec, you guys, next week, I think I'm going to make a video, our discussion video, since we don't have any new Star Wars or Marvel content coming out for the next couple weeks. A video that I want to make next week is why I don't think this show was that good. And one of the things that they did wrong with it was Fennec Shand. I feel like that's just going to be, we're going to save that rant for next week because I've got a lot to say regarding the use of Fennec Shand in this show. And then just the overall ending of this show for Boba. Like, at one moment you have all these people, going at war with each other, all this action is happening, and then all of a sudden it just kind of stops, and then Boba and Fennec are walking through the street. And I think Boba even said something like, I don't think we're cut out for this. And I'm like, well, wait, I thought you were. I thought that was like the whole point of you doing this is like you guys were going to be the leaders of Tatooine. I don't know. Maybe I read into that wrong. But then like just them at the end there with the biker gang, the Power Rangers as people are calling them. What was that? Like nothing happened. It was just like they all just sat there and giggled like, oh, yay, everything's happy and jolly now. Like, what? That's not the ending that I don't think anybody wanted to see. Like, you couldn't have set up something for like Boba Fett down the line, like maybe a future season, or just give us some general direction with Boba, because it's funny because I was sitting there having a conversation, a text conversation with my brother and with my friend. And I was just saying how, like, I really don't give a fuck anymore what they're doing with Boba Fett, but, like, I can't wait to see what they do with Ahsoka and Luke and Grogu and Mando and Bane. And this episode just ended up proving me right. It's like, I really don't care what they do with Boba at this point, because to be honest, they really didn't give me a reason to care. And listen, for those of you who liked this episode, kudos to you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you were able to get stuff out of it. And for those who did enjoy it, I do want to talk about some things that I personally enjoyed about this episode. But remember, you guys, we're all allowed to have our own opinions here, all right? I will respect your opinions if you respect mine. I liked the idea of Mando willing to stick around for Boba, because Boba's like, all right, well, everyone's betrayed me. Chrysanthemum's, who knows where he is. You're probably going to be leaving now, right? And Boba's like, no, by creed, I'm bound to stick with you right now. This is the way, which is awesome that he said that. And like, I think it just kind of goes back to what happened in Mando season 2, right? Like Boba being like, hey, until the child is returned to you safely, we're in your debt. And I think it was almost like in Mando's eyes, it was a debt worth repaying. Another thing I really enjoyed, Boba and Mando working together as a cohesive unit. And first off, them on their jetpacks, which by the way, it's about damn time these guys use their jetpacks. Like, why are they not using them more often? Like, come on. Grogu ended up making his choice. And I thought the way they presented it was funny, where it's like we see the X-Wing and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Luke. And then it ends up not being Luke. It's just R2 in the cockpit flying the X-Wing, and Grogu's the one in the cockpit. Now, admittedly, to be a little critical again for a second, I do kind of wish that Grogu would have stayed with Luke a little bit longer. Now, don't get me wrong. The moments that we get with Mando and Grogu in this episode were amazing. Like, easily, like, my favorite parts of this episode. But I'm just like, okay, I feel like I kind of thought about it and I'm like, I almost feel like this partially undermines the emotion from the Mandalorian season 2 finale a little bit. Because it's like you sit there and Luke takes Grogu away and you're not sure when or if they're going to see each other ever again. And then all of a sudden, they're now just back together again. And for those who didn't watch this show and go from watching Mando season 2 to Mando season 3, they're going to be like, wait, what? Like I said, I enjoyed the Mando and Grogu scenes. Them reuniting was obviously very cool. And then, you guys, the other scene that I really liked, and it was something that me and a lot of other people were hoping was going to happen by the end of this show, and that's Boba riding a freaking Rancor. That was so awesome. Like, apart from the Mando and Grogu stuff, my favorite part of this episode was Boba riding on that Rancor. Like, he was such a badass. I will say, and going back to another thing that was to nitpick, I feel like some of the action scenes went on too long. Like, it was just like constantly people shooting at each other, or it was just constantly Boba and his Rancor just like, wrestling the droids. It's like, I feel like the Rancor should have picked apart those droids within seconds instead of it dragging out as long as it did, but it is what it is. Grogu using the Force on that Rancor, like, that was crazy. Oh man, I don't know what, like, clearly Grogu has grown stronger, right? But the question now is going to be in the future seasons of Mandalorian, is this newfound power that he have going to corrupt him? Is it going to allow him to sort of embrace the dark side a little bit because he doesn't have all that Jedi training? I'm not sure, but only time will tell. It seems like Grogu was using beast control to tame the Rancor, but then he put it to sleep. So I'm not sure, like, if it's necessarily the same thing, but I do also know that I've seen Mace Windu in Clone Wars do something similar, where he'll sort of like, I feel like it's almost like a mind trick, and he'll just be like, you know, go to sleep, and they'll just go to sleep. So I don't know, it's something like that. There's a lot, the Force works in mysterious ways, right? There's a lot of different Force powers out there, and everybody has different Force abilities. So, but I mean, the fact that Grogu was able to, you know, contain this giant Rancor from rampaging havoc across the city, like, that's just crazy. And then Mando and Grogu at the end, of course, in their Naboo starfighter, very, very cool. And obviously we kind of knew, like, all right, if they replace that droid pit with a little hatch there, they're probably going to have Grogu sitting in it at some point, and happened quicker than I expected. And once again, I do kind of find it funny that the ending is more about Mando and Grogu than it is about Boba Fett. Like I said, you guys, I don't know if I really care about what Boba Fett's doing anymore. Like, I think I'll save my overall thoughts on the show for next week because, like I said, I want to do a separate video on that. But, like, this episode overall was just not good. And then the end credits scene was CAD BANE in the frickin' Bacta tank, and he was gonna get modded. So I kind of knew that he was still alive. Like, when the townspeople were saying that he was dead, I'm like, I don't know if I actually buy that. And then the end came out, I'm like, I freaking knew it. Yeah, you guys, so those are the things that I liked and didn't like about this episode. I kind of wish that I had more good things to say about it, but I don't think it was that good. And by the way, for everybody that was expecting Han Solo to be in this, like, if that was the reason why you guys were disappointed in this episode, I would say, like, y'all gotta get your heads out of your butts, because, like, okay, by the way, who the fuck started these reports that Han Solo was going to be in this show? Because, like, I'm just sitting there like, what purpose would it serve for Han Solo to be in this show? Like, you can make an argument, right, if you were to speculate that Luke was going to be in season 2 of Mando because, you know, Ahsoka made the reference to, like, go to Tython, a Jedi will come. So eventually you have that payoff where a Jedi does come to help Grogu. But, like, what hints were there ever that Han Solo was going to appear in this show, and what sense would it make? You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, just because Han put Boba in the Sarlacc, like, that never played a factor in this show, you know what I'm saying? It was never mentioned, it was never talked about. I never once expected Han Solo to be in this episode, and for those that did, well, I kind of feel bad for you. Which is also why I think people have to be careful about speculating too much, because, like, sure, it's okay to speculate because it's fun that way, but if you let that, like, tamper with your expectations for the episode, then you're bound to be disappointed by it. All right, you guys, that's gonna wrap us up for this week. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought of this episode. Stay tuned for next week, as I'm gonna be putting out a discussion about why I don't think the Boba Fett show was that good. And honestly, I kind of want to keep Wednesday discussions alive, you guys. Like, especially, I know we don't have any new content right now. Like, I think the next thing that we're going to be getting Disney Plus wise would be Moon Knight for Marvel. So once that comes out, we'll definitely be talking about that. But I think for the time being, you guys, I've got some ideas for things that I want to do for some weekly discussions going forward. So hopefully you guys are staying tuned for that. And make sure you guys like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, share this video around, as it really helps support the channel. And I will see you guys next time.
Like a panther.